Hello.
Hello.
Hi to anyone that is here. This is Zach, the Storytelling Dragon, and Derri. Most of you will probably be seeing this after you see my little segment on Town Square. I cannot wait for John and Jacob to react to it. It's going to be great.
Oh, look at that. Wizard's here. Well, hello, fellow Dresden fan.
Oh, hey, Andrew. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, so hopefully then people will join in and stuff. Good to have you. And then one of our, me and Derri were just talking backstage about how we have, like, in the world of Booktube, and if we're analyzing this and bringing it to Dresden, we have multiple Michael Carpenters and multiple Murphys that kind of have our backs in the world. And you're one of them, buddy, Andrew.
Yep.
You've been one of my oldest friends, so thank you for everything, even though I know you haven't had the easiest of times lately. I greatly appreciate it. Hey, Shard, good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked once or twice in Discords and live streams, so yeah, I hope you enjoy this one.
Yeah, he's one of my constants. So, Zach, Shard was here. I'm pretty sure he was on board the first time I read Dresden, which was back in 2022.
Oh, wow. I thought you would have read it way earlier. So yeah. Huh.
No, I really struggled with it. I was eyeballing them, and it took me years. And I just... Every now and then I would try again, and I'd reread Stormfront and be like, why do people love this series so much? And then I'd read Full Moon and go, I don't really know that this is for me.
Oh yeah, Full Moon is weird.
And eventually it was Jake Bishop, who obviously is a big Dresden fan. And I was talking to him on Discord, and he said, try the audiobooks. You might find that goes more smoothly. And that got me over that hump. That whole, I don't know if I like Harry, he's a bit of a perv. And the audiobooks made a huge difference, because
he's a much
inner and outer monologue, the tone changes. So it was easier to...
and it also doesn't help that the audiobooks, like the first 5 or so were done with fuzzy media. So then
it never bothers me.
It never bothers you? Okay. I know a lot of people just didn't like the fact that he basically did not have a pop filter. So.
But in my very, very, very young life, I was completely deaf as a child. So I tend to ignore a lot of that kind of thing. So long as I can hear the words, I'm good. So I didn't have a problem with that. And that got me, it was in a September in 2022. And I finally read or listened to Grave Peril, and I was like, this is actually really good. And then by the end of September, I'd got to Summer Night. And then before the end of October, I was up to date. I read the last 10 books.
Oh, yeah, I binged it too when I did it. Yeah. As you can see, I am all... In fact, I think I might keep the duster just in general for videos and stuff like that, because I used to wear this everywhere for college, and I pulled it out of my closet for this and stuff like that.
So you were quite young when you read it for the first time?
Oh, yeah. I used to be really in love with dusters when I watched, like, The Matrix and stuff like that and stuff, but Harry really solidified the whole thing.
I would have thought you more of a Constantine fan coming into Dresden.
Real interest. Yeah, I like Constantine, but he's a bit too bitter for me. However, I do really like the animated DC Constantine, but he can get a little bit too... I'm just gonna sit in a bar and just be sulking all day for me. But I do like when he actually, steps up and saves the day and stuff like that. It's just very oftentimes he's more, in his own head with things. Because I much like that Harry, will always try to, step up and do the right thing. thing and what have you, where oftentimes Constantine is a little bit more shady from what I've read. But hey, you know what? He is always something that I wanted to read, and now that I am in, you know, a much more older and potentially more jaded part of my life now, I could see me enjoying. I could see me enjoying Constantine. So
I see a lot of parallels, and I
yeah. Me too.
Jim Butcher was massively influenced. I think he would be honest enough to say so. That there's a sense of this sort of, this isn't who I was meant to be, but I'm going to be the good guy, and I'm going to fight my every instinct to do the easy but wrong thing, to instead do the right thing, even if it is harder and it takes more effort.
Well, and sometimes, and sometimes doing the right thing, sometimes it requires you to be, a little bit on the gray side. Like, that's why I really like the Gray Council and stuff like that, where the people that are supposed to be the good guys, like the White Council, where and a lot of them are trying to do the right thing, but a lot of them will get so in their head about, rules and regulations and self-righteousness and stuff like that. Like, you just read Proven Guilty. The perfect example is, that opening where, they're like, that really affects Harry, that death at the beginning of Proven Guilty and stuff like
because
that.
Because it feels like injustice, and he's doing it supposedly in the name of this power for good. And that's really
so when he then
discombobulating for him
there, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, so let's go back for the people that just kind of want to, why, for the people that were kind of like you when you first started, where it's like, why do I want to read about this huge pervert that just is always weird and creepy? And like we said, like just do the audiobooks, or try to just envision listen to some James Marster interviews, and then just try to get his voice in your head, maybe, or something like that.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because his inner voice is clearly a kind of instinctive, I literally haven't engaged my brain at all reaction, where you just get reaction. And then his brain steps in and sort of slaps him at the back of the head and goes, no, that's not okay. and you see the brain jump in before he actually says anything. Yep. And that actually endears Harry to me a lot, because he knows that initial thing that happens in his brain isn't okay. And that he's choosing to never act on it. He's choosing to
do the best of his ability, at least. Yes. Yeah.
And I love that. That's literally why I love Harry, because he knows what's right, and that's what he's going to do. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Harry, much like, so like the whole point of this video, just so we are clear for people that are tuning in, is that we both love, Dresden Files and Dungeon Crawler Carl, and they all have a lot of similarities where we just kind of really resonate with the character about how, they much like Dresden, kind of Carl and Donut can kind of have that vibe of, like, I'm not a good person, internally, but I
really like Dresden, and because Carl is a muscular guy, like, he's really strong. There's this sense that I could be the bully really easily. I could be that guy, and he knows that's not okay, and so he very deliberately chooses to be better. And that choice, to me, is where they really sort of intersect, and it's why I love them both. They've decided to be good people. It's not something that comes automatically to either one of them. Both of them feel that they were perhaps destined to be not nice people, and simply decided to go against that. And that endears them to me greatly.
Yeah, and then also just that stubbornness of like, you will not break me, as Carl goes, and Harry also has that, where the quote unquote good guys are trying to do, where they are clearly doing a bad thing. Like,
That's right.
Apologies for people that are, don't want spoilers or what have you. Just listen to us and let us talk about the series, and then maybe go back and kind of see some stuff. Oh, and that brings up another thing for people that maybe want to try a more radical thing if you don't really understand the series. So Dresden is part of my personal therapy, and we will just call her Murphy for the sake of this video. But she started with Changes, the lovely, which is book 12. Yeah, but there is, at page 1, there is a very radical, like, okay, goal set. We are now going to go, hell or high water to achieve this. And it is definitely something where the characters are much more solidified into the roles that they normally are throughout the series. Books 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, they're kind of a little,
They're young authors' books that they're finding new.
Yep. Yes, Changes is so good. I agree. Yeah, I know. My therapist was crazy to just randomly pick, like, oh, I'm gonna pick this one.
Let's be fair though. I mean, in the fandom, Changes is the one that we're all like, this is the one.
Right.
So it's understandable. But
if people want to, and she did the audiobook too, and she loved, when whenever James Marsters like screams Fuego or what have you, it's just it's palpable. And so then she decided to do that. So if you guys want to maybe start with this one and then go back to book 1 and then work your way forward, so then you can kind of see maybe some of the stuff you missed. Not saying a lot of people would go for that, but I'm saying, if you want to, it is what she did, and she has now loved the series. And by the way, this is
a new reader might enjoy the earlier books more because there's a surprising amount of foreshadowing in them.
Yes.
As I said, I've just reread up.
Yes, they are. Yeah, that's what she was enjoying too.
And there is a lot of foreshadowing that when you read them first and you don't know where the story's going, 1, you don't notice it. 2, you've got no concept of how good the writing of this is going to get. So you're reading a book that is very clearly a young author's book. There are inherent flaws, that the characters aren't particularly well-rounded. A lot of them are almost sort of placeholders for better characters later. So knowing where they get to, I think reading the early ones after you've read Changes might even, it feels like heresy to say it, but it might actually be the smarter way to go.
I know. She completely found that path on her own, and that amazes me. I just want to point out for people that this is a signed copy of Changes, which is amazing to me. My great friend John from Talking Story lovingly gave this to me for Christmas, and it is priceless to me. So thank you, John, who is always I know it's a crazy idea, Shard. I know it is, but it's a possibility.
It blew my mind when I heard it, but as I've clearly put a bit of thought into it since then, and I think I might even.
Yeah, it's just if people balk at Harry and be like, "Oh, he's so pervy," just try this, And then also, if you're an animal companion lover and need like an animal companion, first page has an excellent animal companion, at the beginning, and the entire time, like when she was then reading the series, it's like, when is this character coming back? When is this character coming back? Book 6. Murph.
Just like,
she's coming back there.
Kind of downplaying Mister's role.
Yes. Oh yeah, Mr. too. Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
is
So for
great.
those who
Yes.
don't know, when we meet Harry, he's very young. He's like
Yep.
in his early 20s. He's
Early
got
20s.
a cat, a
Yes.
big cat. He was
Yep.
feral, and the cat distribution system allotted Harry this cat, and they're good mates. And he's
There are
living the
so many
bachelor
series
life.
about what Mr. represents, but
Yeah.
in the series, but yeah.
So
Mr. is
round
great
that
too.
out. There's a very small cast in those first few books.
Yes.
I mean, we don't meet one of our major characters until book 3 with Michael.
Yes.
And he's a very key component. And it's in book 3 as well that we meet Thomas. It's in that book we meet some of the really big.
That is a book that has serious foreshadowing and planting seeds for the entire rest of
There's stuff in book 3 that we still haven't had paid off. And
it's so good. And that's that was the book that got me invested, where I was like, man, books 1 and 2 were, okay, Case of the Week stuff, and some of the stuff in Full Moon was a little weird, for me.
Because I've just recently reread it, and I was thinking, why do I struggle with this? Because every element in it is something I like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I finally settled on was there was just slightly too many elements in it to be fully fleshed out. And because none of them got fully fleshed out, it doesn't quite feel finished. It just feels kind of a bit loosey-goosey, and you're like, oh, okay. And I think if the book had been longer, I think if Jim had felt that he could flesh out each of those story threads properly, I think that would have been a really good entry, and it just felt a bit rushed. But again, he was a young author. I don't know that he knew where this was going. We see it in the tone changes, because that first book is so very detective noir. I mean, you can almost hear the Bogart over, and the black and white cinema type look of the book, and the tone shifts into much more modern storytelling over the first few books. And so there's a lot of things change in those initial stories as he finds his feet with the characters and the tone. And it's when I thought about it in the light of, okay, if you started it changes, what would that do to your understanding of the story? I genuinely think it would improve knowing where it goes, because you're going to be more forgiving of the aspects that hadn't quite landed yet.
Yeah, and then you're going to just kind of appreciate, the build of how things go from there.
Which is odd for me, because I'm usually a very traditional completionist. I will start at the beginning and I will read through. But I also read Discworld, and I'm a proponent of chaos reading order for Discworld. Just read whatever book falls across your path in whatever order.
Yeah, a lot of people start with Color of Magic and then fall off, or what have you.
And Color of Magic is not what people are referring to when they talk about Discworld. It's in Discworld. It has some of the same characters, but it isn't the same as later Discworld books.
Yeah, I've always heard start with small gods, start with guards. And
so
then I've also
equal rights, fantastic. Mort, brilliant.
Yep.
There are some really strong entries in that little bunch of books. And I think Guards, while a great book, it is an S-tier Discworld, is, I think, too easily the default start here point. But no matter where you start in Discworld, book 1 always stands out as being really different. Well, and book 2, because they immediately follow on from one another.
Yep.
And that progression of an author can sometimes only be enjoyed when you know the author is going to get better. Which is why
the audiobooks are fantastic.
Later in the Discworld series, because the early book doesn't show all of the strengths. This is why we love the series, and they drop off. And I feel that very much is how a lot of people come across Dresden, and they're just bewildered as to how do people.
Everyone says like, just wait till you get the changes. It's just 11 more books away, I promise. Yeah. And it's just like,
or at least to book sort of 5 or 6. It's a long time. It's a lot of books for people who aren't used to reading.
And people will, and there are a group of people, not necessarily us, but there are a group of people I've seen online that will kind of enjoy books 1 through 5, and they'll hit 6, and then they'll be like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, I didn't actually want it to become this big thing. Yeah, and they're a minority. Let's be fair. Yeah. But there's also the sense that, particularly among booktubers and for people who read to the extent that we do, because we're not your average everyday person. We read considerably more than most people, and we have massive TBRs of books we want to get to. Why would we want to invest so much time in a series that even fans admit the first few aren't great?
I remember Napier had the same problem and stuff like that.
Try and encourage readers to get into it. And there are good reasons for people to resist getting into it, and there are better reasons for them to keep going.
Oh, you got another person to join the cult of the turtle, so there you go.
You just haven't found the right one, Shad. I swear to all things deity that there is a Discworld book for everyone. Just got to find it.
Yes, I agree. So then let's see here. What else do we need to kind of touch on? But just both, Harry just has that strong moral compass that I love about him, and I just love that, no matter what, even if it's incredibly a stupid, and he is basically hurting his bottom line basically by doing this, that's why he lives in basically squalor for the first few books, because there are moments where he'll be like, I need to just really make money, I need to just work on cases that go by, and then there'll be this one where it will be either the damsel in distress or the kid in danger, and he'll be like, hell's bells, okay, fine, I'll help you out, or what have you.
Dragged into these world-altering situations that he has to save the day for, and at one point he does bemoan this. He's like, I saved the world and I didn't get paid. I have rent to pay, people. And I like that little thread, that it kind of grounds it in reality in those first few books. This constant reminder that he still has to make rent. He still has to buy food. He has things he needs money for. He needs gas, which are things we don't often see.
And then he also needs to, because in the world of Dresden, magic can corrupt, technology and kind of mess with.
He has no access to a lot of things we take for granted.
He always has to use really old technology, like a beetle, or, from the 50s or whatever it was.
And it's a clever piece of world building, because a lot of us as fantasy readers, we've read across a really wide period of time. We've read fairy tales from centuries ago, and we've read stories from 100 years ago. We've watched how fantasy has evolved, and the things that witches and wizards could and couldn't do, and how they affected the world around them, changes with time. And I really like that Jim Butcher took that element of the way we've seen magic into his world building and explained it. He's like, wizards affect the flow of energy around them. Nowadays, that means Wi-Fi and internet and electricity. And because he interferes with those fields, none of it works around him.
There's some great fan art that I saw one time.
By thinking about it.
Yes. There's some great fan art where Jim had a throwaway line where he explains how Harry can watch TV, and it's and then get all these movie references. It's just either he'll go to a really old drive-in theater and stuff like that, so then he can see old movies and stuff like that, or he'll have his friends basically, he'll go to someone's house and then he'll stand in a circle that will absorb all his magic and then watch the TV that way.
Yeah, and he reads a lot, and again that's something that endears him to me. I'm like, no,
there's a Dan Kuntz line.
This idea of a good weekend is reading a book.
There's a line where he mentions he has like some old Calvin and Hobbes comics, and you can't see it, but behind that Hellboy is a giant Calvin and Hobbes collection. So I'm quite enjoying that.
I think that speaks to the nerd in a lot of us. This sense that he got given for his birthday an original Star Wars poster.
Yes.
And he loves it. He's like, and it's an original one where Leia's holding on to Luke's leg. And the geek in all of us, we know what poster he's talking about.
Yes.
Because that cultural reference is very loud, and it puts us in who he is as a person. We're like, I know him.
It makes me sad though that he's not a bigger Star Trek fan, but I enjoy.
Molly is, so it's okay.
Molly is, but yes, I not everyone likes Ghost Story, but I love that scene where they're doing the battle between like Star Trek and Star Wars in the head, and like it's great. Molly picks Star Trek, and then Harry is Darth Vader, TIE fighters or what have you, and it's like, it's a fun scene. I love it. It
is very fun, and the symbology of it doesn't go unnoticed. There's a lot of very much the dark side.
You could almost call Harry Anakin that didn't let go of trying to, because and that's also, I don't know how well you know your Star Wars lore, but it seems like you do. Like the Jedi, in my opinion, they didn't give Anakin a lot of good chances, because they're always telling him to suppress your emotion, suppress your emotion, don't fall in love,
they
do all
became
that
like
stuff.
the White Council did. They became proscriptive,
exactly,
instead of supportive, and you end up with Anakin, who becomes this enormous villain because he needs to protect the people he cares for so very much. And that's the arc that we watch Harry on. And in the same kind of way, Harry,
I can relate to that,
is preordained. He's there's this whole mythology behind when he was born, and somehow he's really important. So there's those same vibes again, that he's this destined to be hugely powerful person. And that temptation to take the easy path is in front of him all of the time. And you said earlier that you liked his moral compass. And we spoke about this off screen a while back. I don't think he does. I don't think he has a moral compass. I think he has adopted one, but it doesn't come naturally to him. I think part of that, where his brain intercedes and goes, that maybe we shouldn't do that. It doesn't come automatically to Harry to do the right thing. He has to.
So he adopts the values of his friends, basically.
And I think that makes the temptation to the dark side that both greater and kind of easier for him to resist, because he spent his life choosing to do the right thing. That it's always been a conscious decision for him.
And sometimes, and that makes Harry kind of special, where sometimes the right answer is to sometimes, for a brief moment, to embrace the darkness, to do the right thing. And we see that sometimes too.
Because like when there are no right choices. Sometimes the only options are bad options, and you just have to pick the least offensive to you, and that becomes a judgment call. But the fact that he's used to making the decision is what makes that important to me, because we have Michael, our literal Paladin character. He's very much, this knight in shining armor. He doesn't have to choose. He never has had to choose. He's never had to put thought into, is what I'm doing right? Because he's always known that, I'm not.
But
And
remember the side job story where the
to actually assess that.
The roles reverse a little bit, and then it's Harry that's kind of trying to get Michael to be like, okay, I get it, but like, buddy, like, we'll get your daughter back. Just
because he's never had to face that choice before. He isn't aware of that he has to make one because he's never.
And I think that helps. I think that helps Michael kind of appreciate Dresden's choices all the more.
It's a big learning moment for Michael.
Because I think, and that also then there's a fantastic scene in Skin Game that is very important to kind of my therapy, which is book 15. But it's basically, for people without giving like major spoilers, but it's basically Dresden really kind of feeling like he has really stepped into, the bad guy. He's everything that he has ever fought for to try to do. He's failed so many people in his life. He's always, he's
having he's having a dark night of the soul.
Yeah, he's having a dark night of the soul, and he is just cruising mindlessly to just kind of trying to just get out of his head, and he finds himself parking at the carpenter's house, basically, and and then talking. Yeah. And then the paladin and the wizard have a lovely emotional scene, and it is something that I go back to because it's very much moving. Yep, it's very moving, and just basically it ties it down to like, okay, so you made some tough decisions, Harry, but you know what? If I was in your shoes, I don't think I would have done anything less than what you have done, I like, and I'm human. I failed, and that's what I love about Michael. Like everyone says, like, oh, a paladin has to be perfect. Like, no, he's being very human with Harry in that moment, going like, I'm lucky that because I have,
I get
basically from above.
Yep, I've got a good heart, and I have the backing of someone who believes in me. You are too stubborn. Like, what if I become the bad, and Harry and Michael is like no, I know you, Harry Dresden. Proves that you're not. Yep. And because somebody who's evil doesn't care that they're evil because they're evil, and that's the thing.
Yes.
Because Harry is always concerned about, is this decision I'm making the right one? The fact that he really gets into some dark places in his head over is what I'm doing.
Is that's always going through my head to, am I doing the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? That's partially my anxiety, but it's
very
also my
rare
experience. So
that he doesn't think about it in those terms. And on those occasions, he always has the dark night of the soul afterward, where he's like, I don't know if I did the right thing there because I didn't think about it. And what if what I did was wrong? And, what is that going to do to me later? Because he's a wizard. He's incredibly powerful. Here I'm going to see
he can't break out of promises. Like, I love the wizard promise kind of analogy.
It becomes like Galadriel. If you give me this much power, I could be really, really dangerous. Yeah. I don't know that I should have that much power. Yep. And he really struggles with that.
Yes. And that's what I like about Harry, because it's that paradox that the person should have the most power is the person that does not want it whatsoever.
You want someone to question it. You want someone who's going to think, do I deserve this? What should I be doing with this?
Yes.
How can I help the most people with this? Because that is something that
and that's one of those reasons why, just to go talk in the parallels of just, the power of Booktube and stuff like that. The best Booktubers are the people where you see on screen them always struggling with that. And Talking Story is one of those where you can always go like, do I deserve to have this sword and all these people? You see that all the time. Like, John and Jacob are always doing that. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, you do. Just enjoy the ride, bud. Don't get so into your head about it.
Yes, you have the power. Because we trust you with it. And the people who doubt it, the people who are like, I don't know why so many people are watching,
No,
but
like,
yay,
'cause-
okay.
yeah, and like
Whereas the people
like
who are
one
like,
of the
"Oh,
reasons
deserve
why
more
is because I know I could do a good job. I don't know if I deserve the power of having a platform, but I'm in kind of the like a decision with my life where my dad's health is not the best. He kind of has some balance issues, and he's going to be maybe retiring in the next 3 to 5 years. And so I'm hoping that with a little bit of moxie and a little bit of razzmatazz, we can kind of versatile and get the podcast going with some fellow friends and just do a bunch of little projects that will hopefully build it.
And this will seem like an odd segue, but I think it's relevant in that because it's such a long-running series, because we're watching Harry grow from a very young man to the man he is currently in the timeline of the stories, we're seeing these kind of changes in his life. We're seeing him dealing with his friends getting older who are now carrying long-term injuries. We're watching the people around him age. We're watching them deal with loss. We're watching the people around him deal with their lives, with their children growing up and leaving home, with changes in the way the world works, with the growing dependence on computers and how much more difficult it makes his interaction with the rest of the world. Having his world not be static is one of the most wonderful things about the series, because he's constantly having to adjust. He's constantly having to take things into account that he didn't used to have to. And that's how life is for all of us. The problems we had when we were in our 20s, that of, oh, well, I'm going to just work like an insane madman for 3 days and not sleep. You can't do that.
No, he has those problems too, where it's like I have to burn the midnight oil, but not anymore. So yeah. And
I like that we're seeing that. That very lifelike. I can't do that.
And there is some kind of something that I like in like a later book where he there's it's without going into, I'll just say it's the zoo episode. It's the zoo short story in that one. I like that Harry kind of becomes jaded or is so focused on this one thing that it takes that thing to kind of remind him, maybe we could help this person or something like that, where it's kind of the more it's kind of the younger character that was kind of Harry when he was younger that kind of remind him of that. And I like that. I like that bit. Also a character that I relate to Dresden, but I also relate to Mouse. Like I get very protective of my people, so that's just who I am.
Mouse is remarkable. I mean, of when we're talking animal companions, if I wasn't the fan that I am of Hob, if I hadn't met Night Eyes, Mouse would win hands down. But I'm sorry, but Night Eyes is just head and shoulders above any other animal companion. That's just how
I have heard that he's not.
Sorry,
Night Eyes is not in a lot of the earlier books, but I'm looking forward to. Because everyone's always like, I wanted more Night Eyes. He wasn't in it enough.
We could have had Night Eyes on every single page of every single book, and we would have wanted more Night Eyes. Night Eyes is not who we're here to talk about. Mouse, great character, and the way he's introduced.
Yep. Oh, that is the best opening of any movie.
Special.
It's
because clearly he's valuable. And he's valuable in a way that's not about money. And we learn as we get to know Mouse, as Mouse gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that he is different and he is special.
Yeah, he is special.
And again, in changes, we see
a little bit of taste of that in here. And
we see a side of him in changes that we haven't seen anywhere else. And it is just so wonderful.
Yes. And I love that line where he's like I am gonna rip your butt literally or something like that. And it's just that protective nature, or just like the characters like, what made this imbecile wizard, get you, basically. And he's like, like I picked him, and I like that, yeah.
I like that as well. And that because, geek. Andrew will like that if he's still here. It's a very Doctor Who kind of reference in that the TARDIS chose the Doctor, Mouse has chosen his wizard, and that it very much reinforces the sense that Harry has a purpose, and the mystical things that have become introduced to the story know this. They pick up on this, and they are aware of his potential in ways that we, the reader, and Harry himself aren't aware of yet. In that we can see something. It's like, okay, Jim's going somewhere. There's clearly an end point here. I don't know where that's going. I don't know, but it's there. And there's this sense that Mouse and perhaps the Fae Courts, they're aware of his potentiality. And it's why they've played such a huge part in his developing story.
Yep.
Because they've been so desperate to influence him one way or another. And I find that fascinating.
I love it. And then, another aspect that is very underpraised about that Butcher does that I love is how he takes on, the religious elements of the series. I love that. And I want to be clear, like I come from a history of like a family member that was very, very overzealous with the religion. So Michael was a bit of a hard pill to swallow for me. And to be clear, for anyone that is watching this, I am not at all saying religion can be a very powerful tool for good and all this stuff. It's just with good, you just got to use it properly.
With respect, he is very respectful of religion in general.
Yes.
And so is Harry, in as much as
Harry. No, the fact that Harry and Michael can get along so well is a testament to that. And I love
Michael so righteous that he is painful to be around. Michael is a good person. He's a good person. He's a good man, and he's very non-judgmental, which I think is possibly the most beautiful thing about Michael. He truly understands it's not his place to judge.
There are some moments, however, where he gets a little apprehensive about Michael, about Thomas. There's some moments with Thomas where he's like, he better not step on this thing. It's going to get awkward otherwise. But yeah.
But I kind of agree with that, because on a quite profound level, Thomas can be nothing but evil to somebody like Michael, because the way Thomas interacts with the world, literally soul draining. For a very heavily religious man, empowered the way he is, that's complete anathema to him. He can't get his head around that as being anything but evil. And so it's a really nice bit of deliberate tension. And it's important, I think.
Oh yeah, I 110% agree. I think it's just a very powerful moment. But the thing that I wanted to touch upon was the fact that Harry, I love the way the Knights of the Cross work. Basically, I love the fact that we have Michael, who's your typical righteous paladin, textbook,
His
but then
belief is very strong.
But then you also have a character that is agnostic, maybe borderline atheist, because he's like I don't really care. They could be aliens. I love that line. I just want to do the right thing.
Power and where it comes from has nothing to do with it. It could be technology. I don't understand, but and I like that. I love that that's still embraced in this brotherhood of Knights of the Cross, and we see it in
Yeah.
Shiro.
And Michael never once makes it a huge deal. He's just like, oh yeah, you must I see you met Sonya. Yeah, he's a bit odd, but we, or it's something like that where it's just like, Harry is the one that's like, kind of like,
he's the one that struggles with it. The dissonance for Harry is
yes, Harry is the one that struggles with it.
Wait a minute.
And I could relate to that too, but oh god, I love Sonya. I wish we could get more Sonya. I wish we could get.
I hope we do get more Sonya because he's brilliant.
Yeah, just because there are 2 Knights of the Cross that I definitely align most with. So I like to always imagine that I have
spoilers, but it's there's a the dissonance continues with the whole what you are aware that you're holding a sword.
We were not
the nails from the literal crucifixion of Christ in it, and you don't believe in God.
Yeah, you were given a sword from an angel.
This is a divine item. And
I mixed. Unfortunately, I was looking for this line, and what happened was that I mixed up 2 lines that was in book 5 and book 10, but they all kind of merged together in my head. Where it's like, and in my head, his response is, they could be aliens. It doesn't really matter to me. I love that. I think that is something that no one really talks about enough. I think that is a fascinating way to kind of. Honestly, it's good, representation of a character that is agnostic, but still has a moral compass. I have had. I remember.
God, because Shiro does have faith. He sees hearts.
Yeah, he sees hearts.
Yeah, and somebody believes isn't important. He sees hearts.
Yes, and I find it. I find that
is good enough. For this role.
I find that fascinating because I remember in college, I had one person and we were kind of going back and forth, and I was explaining I'm agnostic, and he found this fascinating. He was like trying to wrap his head around it, and he's like, so how do you have a moral compass without God? And I'm just like, I just do. It's kind of where
I have to go and shut a door because it's banging in the wind and it's doing my head in. I will be back very quickly.
Yep, no worries. Okay, we will keep you all occupied here, but yes, it's Dresden. Just all of those characters are an amazing thing. I'm gonna show you all this in a moment here when the time is right, but these are kind of my special kind of like touchstones that I kind of hold on to when I'm having a bad mental health day or what have you. Actually, when Derri gets back.
Sorry about that.
Yes. So actually, I am super glad that happened because I'm gonna then, because this thing is all about the radically honest about I just want to just share. My head then went oh no, I made her angry and she's trying to find a reason to get off stream or something. That's where my brain went.
One of the windiest places in the world.
Oh, and I know, but that's the thing though with anxiety. You can have a completely irrational and rational.
Our news bulletin yesterday. This is an extreme weather warning for the next few days. So even for where I am with the weather at the moment is kind of insane, and it already broke one of my windows last week.
You're kidding. Oh.
Not. So I'm just slamming doors and windows and things bit nervy. So I promise that was nothing personal.
For people that want to maybe try Dresden, I would say try either Changes or Deadbeat. Both of them would be. Deadbeat would be a good one because of just how that ends. My therapist still will not shut up about Stu. Basically,
Deadbeat was when I knew that I loved the series and I was in it forever. And I mentioned earlier, Jake Bishop helped me get to that point. When I read the end of Deadbeat, I literally finished the book, closed the book, got on Discord, and in all caps was like, I am shrieking. This just happened. Oh my God, that's awesome. And, Jake Mears is back.
I love the callback to it in the recent Peace Talks and Battleground books where
Yes.
that was funny. That's a great bit. It's like that's a great birthday present. Is all I'll say. But yeah, it's
there's the geekness of a lot of what happens is you can see a lot of echoes in a lot of media. There's a scene in the Avengers that makes me think of Deadbeat, and basically Iron Man gets told they don't corner very well, and it throws me into the end of Deadbeat every time because it just does. No particular reason, but it does.
It's not just a scene with dinosaurs. It's a scene with dinosaurs, but you're going to have to read it to find out what it is. But it just makes it all the more awesome.
It's incredibly clever. And again, and we're still meeting new people in this book. We meet Carlos Ramirez.
Yes! Oh, I love his character. And the way that scene plays out that relationship plays out in the later books is very interesting to me. I'm wondering how
there's a very interesting tension that develops between Harry and Ramirez, and I think it's a really true to life one where nobody knows everybody as well as we do, the reader, because we're in Harry's head. We know Harry. We know when he's being sincere and when he's having to sort of dodge particular subjects. The characters around him aren't in his head. So it's completely understandable when they struggle to trust him, when they really struggle to believe him when he tells them things. Because
Which, by the way, the thing that happens in Deadbeat does not make it any easier to trust Harry, because like that's one of the quote unquote judgment calls where it's like, okay, look, I get it. You guys are all, moral.
I made some calls in the under high pressure situation that they're haunting me, these decisions.
Yep.
Did I do the right thing? Okay. If I did do the right thing, did I get to it the right way? And there's the self-doubt that comes with his choices having heavy repercussions is meaningful.
Yeah, a great one is the ramifications that happen in book 3, basically, where it starts off an entire arc that takes a long time
it's the trolley problem.
Get to a climax.
Ultimately, is that the trolley problem plays out in Grave Peril.
Yeah, trolley problem, and
there are no good
trolley
decisions.
problem. And
there aren't winning choice.
He picks the one that he could sleep with, which is he picks the person that was important to him, and it's
so very human.
Yep, and and that is, and everyone else is, and he will, get in his head like, did I make the right call? Did I do that? And it's brilliantly,
with
done.
Wondering what happened in Deadbeat. Shard, that's the one where they're looking for the word of Kemler. So they're dealing with necromancy in the third book. So that should be enough to remind you.
Yeah, and then tell you what but yeah.
There's and even in that there's some interesting foreshadowing. I said before that if you started at changes, it would be really interesting to go back and see what's being foreshadowed. There's still a lot of foreshadowing in those very, very early books that we haven't seen played out. We get told in book 3 that Harry was meant to be a destroyer, a killer. That's what he was designed to be. It's not been paid off yet. And that to me underlines my theory that he doesn't have a moral compass. He's had to make one for himself.
Well, he didn't start out with a moral compass. I'll say that. No. But all of his mentors, all of his people, have developed this sense of justice in him. I will say that. So
and he had a very troubled childhood, and so some of that, and it could have gone either way. I mean, we're both children of traumatic lives, and we've seen it go both ways. There are children who grew up in trauma who continue the trauma and continue to be all of the negative things.
And
there are those.
We're not gonna touch on it much in this one, but I told you that I had a friend that very much went down that path where he allowed the trauma to kind of consume him, and it was very hard to let that friend go, because they were very dear and their entire family was very special to me,
But you know, Harry,
you get back right at the heavy part, buddy. With Andrew going, okay, I'm back. So you
probably missed my Doctor Who reference, but that's okay.
You have to watch it. Yeah, well, but yeah, it was. Well, go ahead. He's right here, and we stopped. What was the Doctor Who reference for him?
That was the TARDIS choosing the Doctor in the same way that Mouse chooses Harry.
The same way Mouse chooses. Yes, there we go.
Yes. I've lost my train of thought from where I was.
Yeah, it happens to me too. So, but just how Harry is. It is a good for Buddy. But yeah, I think we were talking about Harry's moral compass and how it all kind of ties back to it. Yep. And
again, this is the parallel for me with Carl in Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yep.
He had a troubled childhood. They had he had an abusive situation in his home, and he chose not to do that, to not be like that. In the same way that Harry was mistreated as a boy, and he chose not to follow the path that person was on.
There's a moment that happens.
I'm not going to be him.
Of that, yeah. Oh yeah, he's never going to become his dad. That is Carl's thing, So yeah.
Yeah, and that mindset, troubled childhood, such a cliched phrase, but it's true. To choose to not follow those footsteps means that your own path, you don't have an example. You have to find your own way to it. And you make mistakes because you're not following anyone. There isn't an example in front of you to follow. The people who have been born into families,
and I think it's dangerous to then put people on pedestals, in general, because we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. No matter what, even Michael will fall. At some point. Yeah. And
I think what it is, and it gets mentioned actually in Proven Guilty that I've just finished reading, is that for a child who has been brought up in this instance in Michael's home with Michael's wife and their family, they're very loved, these children. They're very supported. They're very cared for. They know what it is to feel safe, and they know what it is to always have somebody they trust. And that impacts the way a person makes decisions, knowing that they're going to get good advice.
Yes, and then there's Harry, who is very...
has never had that.
He's very jealous of it. So it when he basically gets adopted into the Carpenter household, it's very therapeutic for him. And
very.
Yeah, and I love I love the relationship between Charity and Dresden. I think it's a great kind of like that initial like this isn't what it looks like kind of scenario or
beautiful conversation at the end of Proven Guilty with Charity, where Molly, she hears Charity having a go at Harry, and she's like, but Mama, what has he ever done to make you think that of him? He saved me. He saved you. He has done all of these things.
And he makes mistakes, and he feels like when, this is going to be spoiled, but basically the whole first book is them trying to figure out why the horror convention horror monsters are coming out of the screen and stuff like that. Yep. What was that?
Splattercon.
Oh yeah. Hi, I'm a victim. Splatter, or just something like that. I can't remember what that was, but that was great. And then Harry is then like, okay, well, we are gonna redirect it because this is clearly some big bad dark magic.
There's some really nasty
energy has to go down. And then what you find out basically is that, oh crap, the big bad dark magic was at the carpenter's house, and now I feel horrible. I remember that scene of him looking at at one of Dresden. He's looking at. There's for people that don't know Dresden, there is the wizard site that he can open up. He can open up his third eye, and he has to be cautious with it because he can go insane because he's seeing the world as it truly is. Basically, and there's that scene where he's looking at basically one of the carpenter's kids and basically going like, I did this and I feel really bad about it and I need to make up for it. And that's I can resonate with that, and stuff like that. Yeah.
and I'm struggling with those kind of decisions and going, oh crap, not only did I make a bad decision, it impacted somebody else. And so I have to fix that.
Yeah.
Because that's the correct thing to do. And he works really hard on trying to keep that balance, that fairness.
It was impossible to know. So, I mean, it's not necessarily like he made the best decision he knew in the moment. It's just
that's right.
With added context, it then made it.
Later went, oh, that, okay, I need to fix that because I caused it. And that sense of fairness plays out really, really well when he interacts with the Fae, who historically, when all of the fairy tales in history have always been about exchange. It's always been about a bargain, like for like stuff. This sense of balance that this causes this, so this has to be done to offset it. It plays in his favor that he has an innate understanding of that when he has to deal with the Fae courts. And they kind of like him, even when he's causing them a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So, it's a really fun dynamic. Really fun.
Yeah, I love that example, and this is one of the things that Harry will do, where it's just he could use the favor for anything, basically of a fairy, but no, he picks a donut.
He's stuck in a situation where to get out of it, he has to kill something that isn't actually evil. It is just doing its job. And he doesn't want to. And he's like, So he uses that favor as a loophole, as a way to get out of the situation. And he uses it for something so incredibly petty that it's genius. Because the favor he asks to be repaid in this way carries a lot of potential. He could have
frostings on
with that, and you can look at it on face value and go, okay, he asked for this small thing.
Yeah.
In reality, he used that favor to prevent ongoing war with this particular subset of the fairy, and there's a wisdom to that gets overlooked.
Oh yeah, you know what? That is true. I'll have to go back. I just thought that was just Harry being.
It reads Harry. Just really funny because you're like, really? That's how you're going to use this.
I know my therapist loves. They always go back to the Billy Goat Gruff chasing, and oh my god, we have not talked about Bob this whole.
I know. I love Bob. Bob is the quintessential problem.
Yes.
With why a lot of readers struggle with the early books.
Yes, and just so people know, if people have tuned in, Bob is basically a shared joke with his writing teacher, who is a female, by the way, which is basically in writing, in the writing class, she was like, don't write a talking head that's like basically yes, Professor Science, no, and I will now give you, the important plot details, and then I will go away into the night, never to be seen again.
Yeah. I'm here just to dump facts at you.
Yeah, and so then he literally then made Bob a talking head to then few important details that are important for the plot.
Yeah, and for clarity, he does it very well. He's an intellect spirit. He's literally just about gathering facts, and he lives inside a warded skull. So he's Bob the Skull. He's not actually a skull. He just lives there. But because it's a skull and it has eyes and it has a jaw and it's anthropomorphized. So he's Bob the Skull. And what context that you miss in the early books and why Bob is so problematic for a lot of readers is he is leeringly
male gaze. Like
he leers in very creepy way.
Like he'll ask Harry like, okay, I'll do it, but only if you get me like all my favorite romance stuff.
In a strip club all night. He ogles. What you learn over the course of the series is that as an intellect spirit, there is no morality. He's literally fact gathering, and he finds humanity fascinating.
Yeah.
Just absolutely fascinating. He considers GQ and Penthouse in the same category because they're both magazines that cater to men.
And
they're as important as each other. Information is just information to him. What we discover, again, as the series goes on, is he takes a lot of his personality from the person who owns him. And when Harry met Bob, he was a teenager.
He was like 15, 14, like hormones galore.
Very recently sexually active teenage boy. And that kind of imprints a base code, if you like, into this spirit. And it takes a while for that to kind of dribble into your understanding of how this character works. And it eventually you're like, okay, I get it. He can't help himself, literally, that this is wired in to the way this thing
and he'll say some really cringy lines like there's some lines where I kind of but what's great about it is that he'll say the really gross lines, but then Harry will get equally upset at it, like, Bob, shut up, not now.
Okay, Bob. But Bob is always fascinated at that point as to why. What I said wasn't untrue. What I said wasn't a lie.
That is also true, yes.
And so there's this wonderful little moral quandary happening all the way through these books. Again, of that primal response, initial reaction, very non-logical, very chemically, hormonally driven in our brains, because we are animals at heart that are driven by an endocrine system that we have no control over. But we've evolved to have brains that have a control system in place to go, that's not okay. Don't do that. That person's annoying us. No, we can't stab them in the face. So Bob doesn't have the interrupt switch. He doesn't have the circuit breaker. He's just like, well, why don't we stab them in the face? Problem solved.
That's what my therapist loves about him too. And also there's that scene is the Billy Goats, or there's some scene where some monster is chasing them, and Harry and Bob is like, Bob, what do we do? And Bob's like, run, definitely run. Let's run.
Running is good. Yeah.
Yes.
And he does occasionally problem solve in a way that is quite brilliant. Bob, again, the end of
when he actually will actually do stuff outside the skull, because he can come outside the skull. He'll have to be like Harry will have to say, you can do this, and this, and I give you permission to come out for this task. And and it's
because he could be incredibly OP. And on the times that he does come out of the skull and inhabit something, he is very OP. And so it's important that we put him back in the skull so that we can have him controlled. because he has no filter. He has no boundary on what he considers acceptable behavior. And in those early books, it's really not pleasant because he's creepy and leering and however, Bob is now one of my favorite characters.
Yes, he is. And then
Character
also,
growth.
you know, he doesn't have a moral filter, but there is a part later on in the series where Bob will basically be like, no, Harry, we can't unlock that part of me. I won't. I refuse. You know,
Because
that scares even me. And that's the thing that Harry is like what has happened in the world that scares even you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love
and
that.
Because he takes on the personality of his owners, in his past, he has belonged to one of the most evil wizards in known magical history. So there is a part of his history that Bob understands did a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And he has locked that part away and gone, that knowledge is too dangerous for anybody to possess, even me. And that becomes in itself part of the storyline, because knowledge in itself isn't dangerous.
Yeah.
It's always how knowledge is used, like any weapon.
Yeah.
Because Bob is the quintessential weapon of knowledge, and it can be scary when he's misused. But,
it's great. And then so there's Bob, and then I love, you know, just once again, just how Butcher handles the moral dilemma of just the human condition in general. Just, you know, sometimes you need to do
talked about Bob. We haven't talked about Murphy.
Oh yeah, Murphy. Yeah, Murphy.
And that friendship
Murphy is great. Yeah, like she is this little Spitfire pistol of a very short, you know, blonde, but she is amazing.
She's
you know,
a family cop. You know, her whole family are cops. She's Irish. She's of Irish descent. She is particularly in the beginning, she's a very stereotypical character. But yeah, she's a good example too of where knowledge that she's lacking.
And it takes time for Murph to kind of trust Harry. He's like, this guy is super weird.
He's doing things blatantly against the law.
Yeah.
That's a problem for her. She's a good cop. She's
a good cop, but you know, I love how it plays out, you know, the series where she kind of starts to see Harry's point of view a little bit, and also will occasionally look the other way, and you know,
because he's breaking the law. He's doing things that she believes are inherently wrong, and he can't tell her why he's doing some of these things. So she doesn't trust him all the time. At one point in the storyline, she arrests him, which causes a problem because he needs to be fighting something that isn't in a jail cell.
And he's like, no, I have to.
I really can't be here right now.
A lot of people are going to die if you do not let me go. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't explain that to you because it's kind of against the wizarding thing to tell people who aren't wizards about magic. So this concept again of knowledge and keeping it to yourself and not sharing it, but the dangers in sharing it and being able to judge who can handle the knowledge and who can't. And those people couldn't have handled the knowledge, but without the knowledge, they got really badly hurt. That moral quandary continues to be a factor throughout the story, which is such a human thing. You know, how many, all of us in our lives have had situations we thought we understood, later got new information, and it reframes a situation from our pasts completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happened to all of us. And I think it's clever the way that it's done in Dresden, where we get that reframing of situations, particularly for somebody like Murphy, who's like suddenly this thing that she thought was of the greatest good is hampering the person who will protect more people.
Especially how it plays out later in the series is so poetic to me. I quite enjoy that, and I love as she then finally understands Harry's point of view, I love the length of the friendship. I love it when characters will always, that true deep friendship. I love. Yeah.
And they tell each other when they're wrong, and they have some
she will call Harry out on his bullshit, and I love that.
Every time.
Like there's a part where
I'm a cop.
She
you
is
can't
trying
come here and tell me that there's now a dead person in my city that you knew who killed them.
And sometimes Harry will be right too and call Murph out on her BS too. And that's what I like, that there's that. Not all of them, they need each other to become better people, and that's what
and they do mirror each other very well, and they show each other this is who you are, and you're not being true to yourself, or I don't understand this thing, and you need to explain it, because without that explanation, you look like the bad guy. And they do develop a rapport to the point where they can have those conversations. And the early books, they don't have that rapport, and the miscommunication trope is actually handled well, because they deal with it how real people deal with miscommunication. They act on the knowledge they have at the time.
Yes. Yep.
And that feels real when you read it.
Yes.
You
100%,
totally understand why Murphy's doing what she's doing. You totally understand why Harry is shitty about it. And you know that they can't resolve that until they share their knowledge.
Until they all calm down and talk for 15 minutes. Yeah. And I love that. And it's so true to just how the real world works and stuff like that. And I really love another perfect example of that. I love when Harry gets really protective, because he was, the orphan child and stuff like that. He has that feeling. And I would have not necessarily been the orphan child, but I have worked at boys and girls clubs and stuff like that, and as the mentors and stuff like that, where I have seen a lot of really, lot of really sad stuff. And it's so my point is Ivy. I love Ivy, and I wish that she would have done more with it. But the book where we have Ivy, and the part where Ivy is what is called the archive, and the archive is basically
she's very much almost a human parallel to Bob, in that she's a repository for knowledge.
And everyone is so terrified of no, I get it. Yeah, she is a little girl, and we aren't treating her in a human manner, but we need to not do this because of such and such. And Harry is no,
she's a little girl. I'm going to give her a name, because until he encounters this little girl, she's only ever treated as the archive.
Yeah, that's a great. I love when Butcher always says in interviews, Harry has a nasty habit of always giving people names. Throughout the series.
He's always wondering, what can I call this thing? What can I call that thing? The chloroform was
names have power, and all that
and
stuff. So,
the octagons. He's forever giving things names.
Yeah,
and because for him, it helps him define what he's facing. And in defining what he's facing, he can define how to beat it. When it doesn't have a name, he's got nothing to kind of use to identify. He feels very at sea. And it's one of the important lessons for any of us in therapy. Define the problem.
Yes. Yeah. And
figure out what it is, and then we can look at it.
Yeah. And I love when Harry is, I just, the character just, is always trying to do the right thing. And so since we kind of mentioned Ivy and stuff like that, I kind of want to kind of go into my stuff here where, where, how do I say this? I love the scene where he's basically standing up to the White Council and going no, you cannot treat her this this way. You cannot. You have to treat her like a person, basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but the things that could happen because of blah 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 blah. And he's like, no, I'm still going to befriend her regardless because it is inhuman otherwise.
Emotional attachments because it will influence.
Yeah, similar to Anakin, similar to Anakin and the Jedi, it's like, no, we have to suppress. She has
to just be completely about the information with no emotion entered into it.
Yeah, and I love when Harry gets right in that person's face about like, no, this is wrong, and it's like, you're gonna talk back to me that way, and it's like, hell yeah, I am, and I just I love when
I don't care who you are.
I haven't had something exactly like that, but I have had situations where I have felt like I really don't think you guys are seeing the full picture of what's happening with this, and they're like, yeah, but so I've had to make some judgment calls. And there was a time where I did not follow the rules basically, and somehow for whatever reason I got this as my reward, which is like a gift basket of stuff from this little girl, and I've had multiple people like this, but there's no name, but she gave me a little drawing and stuff like that, and this was my name on it, and
to protect a great number of people, we get prescriptive rules or infrastructure that can hurt individuals, despite the fact that it protects.
And that is the thing that I like with Harry, is that I can't help everyone. I can only help the people around me or the people that connect with me. And this person picked me.
Yeah, I can deal with individual and the rules for everybody.
That is the thing that I love with Harry, is that he's like this person picked me. I don't know why. There's that one kid in Harvey or in Ghost Story, and then he's like, the whole reason why he's like, well, now I have to help the kid is because he knows what Harvey is. He's like, I can't actually affect anything in the Ghost Story, but I can be heard by this person, and this person needs help of a kind I can give. So I'm going to. And exactly. And so then, so there's all these little things. And my first therapist, Larry, who has now, probably retired and has, he had pancreatic cancer.
I mean, I do think it's beautiful that you've got a situation where an individual has taken you outside of that prescribed behavior, because that means you have made a difference. But I do think, and this is the lovely nature of therapy, is being able to go, yes, and I can see that this is an exception, but that the rules are in place for valid reasons. And it can be really hard when you understand the reason for the exception and the people making the rules don't. That can be really defeating.
I have had situations where basically the foster system is fundamentally broken, in my opinion, and just and Dresden touches on that too.
Little harms are done, and it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, and it gets to me. But the little things.
There's not enough people in the world to deal one-on-one in a way that can be.
Or it's people that just want to get a paycheck, out of it or something like
because
that.
You can't know what everybody's intentions are, and so we get this very prescriptive. This is the rules, because we can't be certain that we can trust everybody.
Nope, and you get it, but at the same point,
there's a reason for the rules, because while you know that you can be trusted, unless we're in your head, we're Murphy going exactly. What you're doing isn't okay, and I don't know.
Stick around a little bit, and maybe you'll see. And that's kind of the thing that Murphy has to learn. And I love now that when they sync up and they the stuff they do in later books is amazing. Like I love the part where they're on the bike together, and stuff like that, and Cold Days, and just a bunch of little things.
That mindset of I am here to protect as many people as I can. And if what you're going to do, no matter how right, puts those people at risk, don't you dare.
Yep.
And that mindset is as important as Harry's, and which is why they make such a good pair, because he has to then convince Murphy. And if he can't convince Murphy, he learns to accept the fact that, okay, if I can't bring her round, maybe I am wrong.
Yep.
There's that's the tension again, that moral.
Yep.
It's the trolley problem. It's when does one life outweigh more?
Yep.
Always. And that's the problem we have in the real world. We want justice, we settle for law, because every situation is different, and we have to encircle as many of the problems as we can, and the things that fall outside it. There aren't many of them. So on the whole, the law works.
Yep, absolutely.
It's
complicated. Yeah, no, and so I just, I wanted to mention a story that I have from my therapist where, I was a volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. I had background checks and all this stuff, but for whatever reason, maybe it's because I wore a duster, because I love Harry Dresden, and you were
so. Feeding into the trope is what you were.
Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, oh dear, did I? Oh no, we're good. Okay, I thought I went out into the other window here. Here, let me just go back. But yeah, so then my therapist, who kind of really helped me and kind of helped me with stuff, and he's like, you know what, you should like volunteer at a Boys and Girls Club to kind of work through all this. And I'm like, you are out of your mind. It's what I told them. That is insane. And it's like, well, why don't you try it? And so we do, and then it is a life-changing thing for me. But
because you make a difference.
I kind of made like there are people that really liked me and saw what I was doing, and then there were people that just did not. And for those kind of people, one day they were doing snowflakes. They were making snowflakes, and this little boy that wanted to help me wanted to do snowflakes or what have you, and they were going to put it up on on the displays and stuff like that they were like, oh, we want you to have it. That's what the kid says. Like, nope, we can't do that. You gotta. But somehow, I can't remember because it's been like 10 years. Somehow I ended up with the snowflake. I think the kid like put it in my pocket or something. It's one of those things. Like, oh, also I remember there's another great thing where there's another little boy who we got very, very, he's very special to me. And he also had like a traumatic situation with their mother and stuff like that, and he's like sitting on me drawing and stuff like that, and he's like just drawing, having a good time going like, and he just goes to me like, when I first met you, I thought you were a killer. Is what he says. And I'm like, and I want to keep in mind, like he's drawing and he's literally on my lap, and it's like, oh, really? And how do you feel about me now, buddy? He's like, oh, now you're my friend. It's just, it's so cute. And it's just,
this is again, it's one of those situations where the rules in place are clearly designed so that these children don't become attached to individuals outside of the foster system.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's clearly what it's there for. It's for their protection, and you can understand the reasons for them. And unless we're in each other's heads, no one knows who's actually trustworthy. And there are just enough stories about such a nice guy, only to later discover.
Yep. No, and those are the stories that really irritate me and would really irritate Harry as well. Like,
and that's the
in my mind, those are like the ghouls that Harry hates ghouls. And you're just like
easy to give.
Burning.
and it's rare, particularly around children, where trusting somebody else is incredibly difficult.
Yep. Oh,
When
absolutely.
children are imposter systems, it's because they've already had experiences that they should have been protected from. And so the need to protect them is even stronger, even though those protections often keep them away from the very kind of care and attention they need, because there's no way of ensuring the intentions of the people who are offering.
And I worked, this is one of the things where I had to make a judgment call too, where I was working as a peer support specialist, which is not a therapist. It's a very low tier thing in the mental health world. And unfortunately, not everyone fully understands what a peer support specialist is. And I was working with kids, and they wanted me to do like therapy level, stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, and I had to make the judgment call of like, no, I really don't feel comfortable with that. I will be, the sounding board. I will help the actual therapist, give an idea of what I'm seeing or what have you. But I do not want to put my nose in a DSM-5 and start making that's diagnoses and because of that, I lost my job on that one. So it's very frustrating. Where I very much relate with Harry.
You need to become part of the system where you're behind the fence and part of looking after the children, or you remain a person on the outside of the system where we can't let you be someone the children get attached to, and which is where Harry is outside the fence, and Murphy's here going, "You're not allowed to protect Chicago. You aren't enforced to do that. And anything you do, that's my job. No, you're not allowed." And Harry's like, "But I can do things you can't." Murphy doesn't care. She can't get inside Harry's head. She doesn't understand what he can do. She doesn't understand what he's capable of. So her lack of trust is perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly logical. And in a world where, as much as I hate to say it, it doesn't appear that magic exists. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but it appears to be the case. The mindset that has been given to Murphy is the correct one.
A great example I can think of is in Proven Guilty, where Molly is basically trying to be like, okay, like my friend is going to make this horrible decision that I don't agree with, so I'm going to mentally force them to make this choice.
Control on them.
And Harry is the one that goes like, "No, you cannot do that." No. It's like, but it's not right. And I'm like, yes, trust me, I know. I would love to have, my friend who kind of succumbed to his own trauma kind of come around to my point of view on things and what have you. There are many, 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 many things that I would love to change, but I can't, and that
you can't get into somebody's free will. You can't make decisions for people. You can't change who they innately are. And Molly does a lot of damage without realizing that she has.
Yes, without realizing. Yes,
genuinely disagrees with it. She's like, "No, I didn't. I helped." And it's a genuine fighty argument where she's really riled up, and Harry has to literally disperse her power and go, "No, you're dangerous," because thinking that because it's right you can do it is not a good enough reason.
You exactly
cannot fundamentally change another person. And she still struggles with that. That's a fight that she still.
And to be honest, Harry still struggled with that too, but he's trying to be the good mentor.
He is trying to be a good mentor, and he learns a great deal from being a mentor.
There is some things where he will often say like isn't this what you told me directly not to do? And she'll say like do as I say, not as I do, or something like that.
Murphy, she's talented in Aikido. We're told that very early on in her, like in the first couple of chapters. She's very strong and incredibly capable woman. And as the series progresses, she can't go any further in her Aikido training. So she begins to teach, because when you get to a point where you can't learn anymore, you teach and your learning continues, because you learn it again by teaching. And when Harry becomes the mentor for Molly later in the
that's
series,
where he gets the advanced shield bracelet.
He becomes much better at what he's doing, because he has
little
to
subtle magic when he's usually a big brute.
learn different ways of doing things, because he has to develop different ways to teach her.
Right, because her speciality is the more subtle stuff, where Harry is the more powerhouse.
Right, he's the brute.
Yep. He's
the thug of the group. But he has to refine his magic simply to teach her how to use hers effectively, and it makes him a much better wizard as a result. And it also teaches him a great deal about his own control. Again, because he has to develop different ways of control for Molly, he now has extra ways to do it for himself. And that learning through teaching is part of the series.
And,
you see Ebenezer do it with
there are
Harry.
mistakes that Harry made, and they're the particular one that happens in book 9, where Murphy has to step in and be like, hey, this was not a good call. The setting fire to the trash can, basically, that whole scene.
You basically let out some of your rage and didn't think about it.
You allowed the
actually, it wasn't even rage.
You allowed the logic of the person that harmed you growing up, Justin, to kind of come out a little bit, and that's
you allowed this petty annoyance to cause harm. And he's like, I didn't cause harm. Nobody got hurt. And she has to point out to him that, well, you just did enough damage that the shop next to this bin that you blew up, that shop can't open. The people who work in that shop can't go to work. Money is being lost by people because you were annoyed.
Yep.
And he has to really take a moment and kind of go, oh.
Yep. Well, that too. And then just also he's then realizing, like, oh, crap, I'm becoming Justin, and I don't want that for Molly, Yep.
Yeah. Because he doesn't even consider that the amount of force he just gave off because he was annoyed.
And he's still, that's book 9. He's still working on that in book 15, where Michael has to point out, like why aren't you guys like coming out to visit me more? Like I've been out here for a year, and he's like, Harry, do you realize what that island is for anyone that's not you? And it's like, you
have a magical connection to this really creepy ass place. We don't. It's a really creepy ass place, and we don't want to go there because it's really creepy.
I cannot wait for that island to get more. I want to see what really channeling into that looks like, because that would be. I just want to see that, and I
just did the first series about a wizard that on the surface is very male gaze, is very wish fulfillment. There's a lot about self-control. There's a lot about
self-control, redemption, and
and the importance of maintaining friendships and learning from the people around you, and trusting the people around you, and trusting
the people around you. And there are some times where Harry's going to be right, like with the Ivy situation. Like that was fundamentally,
And yet it's still not even a clear right-wrong situation.
It's not.
Amazing shades.
Life is gray, and that's where I never like it when people are black and white.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he shouldn't be friends with Ivy. We get it. She's a little girl, and there's nothing wrong with caring for a little girl. The gray comes into it when you factor in her role and the metaphysical nature of her, and the potential for harm in having her become attached to an individual. Again, that parallel to the foster care system.
Well, and then I love that Butcher decides to like, let's give the most overpowered, people to attach to, which is Kincaid and Harry. And
these men who want to protect this little girl, because she's a little girl.
Yeah,
I think humanity in general is going to go bang child. Of course, we'll protect.
Well, and then like that's a big thing too, like protect the offspring. That's another big,
I mean that's a biological drive in all mammals on the planet. It can't be refuted. Anyone who tries to say anything about it is denying your nature.
And that's part of the thing where me and especially like John and I will kind of relate, like if he loves the dad comics and stuff like that and the dad moments where, because I worked at Boys and Girls Club and all that stuff, for whatever reason, that stuff kind of opened up in me in a weird kind of not intuitive way where I will get in my feelings about those things and I will remember the kids that wanted my help and I couldn't always help them and stuff like
That's right, because it's in our nature that we protect the children, we look after the children, we give them what they need to thrive.
Yeah.
And then there's this layer on top of it of what we think they need now may not in the long run be wise, and having to constantly kind of keep that balance. Now, I mean, I'm a parent. I know Andrew in the chat's a parent. I don't know about Shout. I don't know if he's got children. And I'm not going to speak for you, but I know in my own past that I've made a lot of mistakes where in doing what I thought was best for my children, I've just caused an entirely new generation of trauma.
My mother did the same thing. It's the exact same thing she did. A lot of what my trauma is going forward that I'm still dealing with, and that she was trying to do. She is a complicated. I have had to cut her out of my life for personal reasons, but I will say that I'm happy that I had a moment at least where she apologized for those things. And
well, that's important.
Yeah.
I mean, any decisions that I made as a parent were always, because that's how reality works, they're always based on your own experiences. And you're like, well, I had this situation and I don't want that situation for my children. What that does, however, is kind of shut you off to looking beyond just that decision and going, but is this helpful in the long run? Where, yes, we want to protect Ivy. Yes, we want her to have her encounters with Mouse and have 5 minutes cuddling the kitty. Yay, because she's a child. Have a cuddle with the cat. Earth-shattering events are happening and we need the knowledge that you hold. We need you to not be a kid right now and be the archive.
Well, and then it's just really messed up, like just the whole how she knew the outcome. She knew about how her mother died, basically.
Yeah, and that's messed up. And there's a lot of to unpack there.
Yeah.
The point that I'm trying to make is that in giving her an identity beyond the archive, the potential for issues as she grows is much greater than if she hadn't been given an identity. And we have yet to see the outcome of that.
I really hope it plays out where it was better for her to have met Harry and have had an identity or something like that. But we will see. Yep. We will have to see. And
we will. And there will be a lot of good that comes out of the friendship, I'm sure.
Right. And well, you see, I'm going to be upset if they go into a particular direction because, like, there is some stuff with Molly where I'm, like, concerned, like,
I need some of the stuff to have consequences because there are reasons for a lot of these rules. And we need to see some of those reasons play out.
Oh, yeah. Because so long as it isn't like I can't. It's too deep into spoilers. We'll have to. But yeah, it's a thing. And then, but yeah, I just kind of wrapping this all up to an extent, like and then since we're kind of talking about dungeon crawl, this was mostly Dresden, but I love the scene in book 5 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. Where Donut is basically professing to this character, "You're not my person anymore. Carl is," and stuff like that. And it's just, and that is something that I kind of respond well to. What was that?
Donut is a cat, and quite a childlike cat, because she's a cat, and she has had limited experience like many children do, and she's still developing her sentience. And very much like the situation with Ivy, she sees things with real clarity, because she's not putting her own experiences on top of them. She's seeing them for what they are. So she reads situations incredibly well. What we then see is, because she's so open to what's around her, it's incredibly easy to influence her. And we see it with the friendship she develops with a woman who actually would rather she died. Because, I mean, she literally went online and said, well, I'm going to join this thing, and I'm going to join the war, and not because I'm going to kill them. It's very unpleasant, and it's hurtful to Donut when she finds out, because she went into what she thought was a friendship with genuine openness and genuine willingness to learn about this person and be part of their life and be welcome.
I definitely have that. That's a little bit too revealing of my own personality.
This is the thing, is that for a book that is completely bonkers, Dungeon Crawler Carl as a story is bonkers.
Oh man, when I had to explain, like I just told her Princess Donut, and my therapist was like, no, I'm not reading that. Dresden is good. It's like, no, just trust me, just read it. And then it's I know Jeff Hayes at least at one point did fan calls. At one point I would love to do a fan call of Donut, So I don't know. It's just
it's brilliant. But there's incredible nuance in that series, because we have this very childlike character. We can explore a lot of different things. And Carl has been an abused child. He's got a lot on his mind in terms of
and there's
trust.
And there's also that scene in book 6, which we won't really dive into, but man, let me tell you, I was right there with him in that, where he's like this was wrong that this happened to you, and it's really messed up, but I am now going to fight for you,
and but all of us are damaged in one way or another. And there's this point in the story where we get that insight from some of the other characters of some of the things that they carry, and we're all broken. And with the clarity of a child, Donut says it's okay to be a work in progress. And what isn't said in that moment is that we also all have to give that grace to the people around us. We're allowed to be a work in progress. So is everybody else.
Yes, absolutely. And it doesn't, this is great. I want to mention this. I remember when I was learning about self-actualization and stuff like that, I went to my first therapist, and they were like, I think I've done it, Larry. I think I've done it. And he like, no. Let me shoot you down there. No, I'm still self-actualizing. It does not matter if you're 60 or 70. You are still always a work in progress. Yes.
That's right.
But speaking of Larry, I just want to mention before we wrap up that, basically when I got the snowflake from the kid, Larry was retired, so he picked me up from Boys and Girls Club, and we went to the local Irish pub. It's very much like McAnally's, and we were having our meal, and we were talking about stuff with people about our lives and stuff like that. And at one point, the snowflake got taken away, and so Larry, for whatever reason, he's like, let me have a piece of paper, and made me this. And this is even better. It's very special, and it helps me kind of remember kind of one of the most biggest things.
It's a symbolic moment. And
and it's one of the things that I will always remember. And it's something that he said that a fellow mentor that was special to him told him, that it's not the outcome that matters. it's the effort you put into it. And so I try to hold on to that if I have made a mistake or, or what have you. Like,
well, it's trite as it is. It's the thought that counts.
Yep.
It really is, So,
yep.
And,
that's
nice
and that's something too that what I love about Harry is how protective of his people he is. Like, it does not matter. Like, I know everyone loves to like hyper focus on romance and stuff like that. Was like I truly believe, that it wouldn't have mattered, like the events that play out in book 8, like proven guilty. Murphy still would have helped Harry, in that situation. I was taking my ethics and leadership classes at the same time, and I love that the Greeks have multiple layers of love. It's not just romantic love. It can also be friendship love. It can also be friendship for a child, or just selfless love. I very much
these little boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes media and stories can kind of just hyper focus because I have romantic feelings for this person.
Yeah.
Like, no, like I think that's why sometimes people will sometimes not always understand me, is because I just like my people in general, and I love very deeply, but but it is always completely.
Well, the modern understanding of love is very narrow, and
exactly.
very prescriptive. It excludes a lot of things that are love.
And that's where, and that makes me sad. And so I love when Harry or a series, like Dungeon Crawler Carl, like Dresden, that can have many layers of that. And and Harry went to the ends of the earth to get Ivy back, that didn't matter, and I just love I love that the series just kind of has those moments of just like, my people, my city, back off. Like Harry literally says that multiple times, and that's very much kind of my default, is like is and you are one of those people too, like in my mind, and I will also then get in people's faces, with my people, to then make a point that I think is right in that moment in time, just to be like, if this is for the greater good in that moment or time. And sometimes I'm wrong, but the default for me is that I'm always trying to look out for my people, and that's where I always get really upset when people didn't think I was that, and I always, I always want
people out there just want to do the right thing and are doing what they think is best.
And this happens with
not all the same
throughout my life. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
but I am going to have to
absolutely
wind up the conversation, because I do have things to do this afternoon.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been looking at that.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Zach. I love this series. I love Dungeon Crawler Carl. And this time next week, well, roughly this time next week, I will be having a live stream of my own, and ask me anything on any of my favorite series. So for those in the chat or watching later, I hope to catch you there. Have you got anything coming up, Zach?
Yeah, I hope this conversation was good enough where we can maybe plan some others going forward or something. Like, like I told you about that Hasbin Hotel series, maybe, like, or just, I don't know, just something, or hey, Firefly. We could talk about Firefly, or just something. Battlestar Galactica. That would actually be cool. I have not actually watched Battlestar Galactica.
We can talk about that as you watch it, for sure.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
thank you so much.
You have a lovely time, everyone. I hope everyone had a great time, and we will be signing off. But thank you, Derri, so much for everything. You are a very sweet soul for letting me ramble at you. But thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely night.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one, everyone. Toodles. I have to hit. All right, bye.